Betrayal hurts. But what if the people who betrayed you were the ones you called family? Imagine working your whole life for something only to have your parents and sister steal it all with one forged signature. This is Clara's story. A woman who returned home after closing the biggest deal of her career, only to find her dream car gone. Not stolen by thieves, but pawned by her own family. What followed was 30 days of lies, broken trust, and a choice between forgiveness or destruction. The Frankfurt deal was finally closed. 6 exhausting days of endless negotiations. And I had secured the European expansion my company had been chasing for years. My body ached from the 9-hour flight, but triumph pulsed through me as I drove the rental car toward my parents' suburban home. My suitcase sat in the trunk, heavy with the weight of the trip, but I had promised my mum I would stop by before heading to my apartment. She would want to hear every detail, and she would no doubt insist on feeding me something homemade. The setting sun washed the neighborhood in amber light as I turned onto Willow Lane. I pulled into the driveway and noticed my father had finally trimmed the wild bushes beside the garage. A small victory, I thought. My heels pinched as I stepped out of the car, smoothing my pencil skirt. My silk blouse was wrinkled from the flight, but I still looked every inch the senior analyst who had just landed a career-making deal. Smiling, I pulled the garage remote from my purse. The familiar click, the mechanical whir, the door rising. And then, nothing. Nothing but empty space where my car should have been. My heart dropped. No. No. The words escaped before I could stop them. The garage stretched out, there except for Dad's old lawnmower and Mom's gardening tools. My hands went numb. The remote slipped from my fingers, clattering to the concrete. I abandoned my suitcase and rushed inside, bursting through the side door into the kitchen. They were waiting. My mother, my father, and my younger sister Emily, seated around the oak table like some twisted intervention. The silence hit first, heavy and suffocating. Then came the guilt, written across each of their faces. My father couldn't meet my eyes, staring instead at his hands spread flat on the table. My mother's voice carried that soft, sugary tone she always used before breaking bad news. Clara, sweetheart, don't overreact. My throat burned. Where is my car? The words came out like shards of glass. Emily lifted her chin. Her false confidence plastered across her face the way she does in her endless social media posts. It's just temporary, Clara. I'll pay it all back. My voice dropped, sharp, dangerous. Pay what back? Where is my Challenger? Mum darted a glance at Dad. Still, he didn't look up. And then he finally spoke, his voice rough and hollow. We took it to Cornerstone Pawn. Got $45,000 for it. The room tilted. My vision swam. They had done the unthinkable. My car. My dream. Gone. And not by strangers, but by the very people I called family. My hands were still shaking when I walked into Cornerstone Pawn the next morning. The place reeked of cheap air freshener and desperation. I straightened my blazer, forcing myself to look like a woman in control instead of someone whose world had been ripped apart. Behind the counter stood a man with a name tag that read Gordon. His expression was flat, practiced, the look of someone who witnessed other people's disasters every single day. Miss Martin, he said, sliding a stack of documents across the glass. Your vehicle was brought in 5 days ago. Loan amount $45,000 plus our standard fees. I scanned the paperwork, my finance training snapping into focus despite the chaos in my chest. $3,000 in fees? That's predatory. Gordon's face remained unreadable. Classic cars are volatile. We take risks. If the loan isn't repaid in full within 35 days, the vehicle goes to auction. He tapped the fine print with one finger. My stomach twisted as I flipped to the signature page. And there it was, my name. My signature. Except it wasn't. The forgery was close. Almost perfect, but not enough. Whoever signed had missed the upward curve I always leave on the final letter. My blood ran cold. "This isn't my signature," I said, my voice cutting through the stale air. Gordon hesitated. "Ma'am, if you're suggesting fraud." "I'm not suggesting," I snapped, pulling out my driver's license and a recent work contract. "Compare them. This isn't me." He studied the papers, discomfort flickering in his eyes. "I'll need to bring in my manager." "Please do," I replied, forcing my tone to stay calm even as rage burned inside me. "And while you're at it, pull the security footage from the day this transaction happened." I wasn't even in the country. I was in Frankfurt, Germany. 20 agonizing minutes later, his manager joined us, flipping through the documents and then looking back at me with something like pity. "You're right. This is fraud." The words landed like a stone in my chest. Fraud. Not just betrayal. Not just theft, but a crime. A crime committed by my own family. "We can file a police report immediately," the manager said. The word police sent a shiver down my spine. Jail time. Mugshots. Headlines. My parents' faces behind bars. My throat closed. "Not yet," I whispered. "I need time to think." Back in my apartment that night, I sat frozen on the couch, still in my work clothes, staring at nothing. On the coffee table lay an old family photo album I hadn't touched in years. I pulled it into my lap, turning page after page. Emily's 16th birthday party. A garden full of guests, a massive cake, a professional photographer. My 16th. Missing. Because I was working a part-time job at the mall, saving for college applications. Flip the page. Emily's high school graduation with a rented limousine. My college graduation? Empty chairs where mom and dad should have been, their flight mysteriously cancelled. But they made it to Emily's dance recital the very next day. Christmas 2018 Emily. Beaming beside a brand new Volkswagen with a giant bow. Me. Clutching a department store sweater. Smiling that thin, tight smile that never reached my eyes. The pattern was undeniable. Not just favoritism. Sacrifices. My sacrifices. Always fueling Emily's dreams. And now, they had taken the one thing I worked years to build. The one thing that represented every sleepless night. And every choice I made to be responsible. My challenger. My dream. My respect. And they had stolen it. My phone buzzed. A notification from my insurance company. A lien had been placed against my vehicle. Ice spread through my veins. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. I whispered into the silence of my apartment. They have 30 days. 30 days to make this right. Or I press charges for fraud and theft. I couldn't sleep that night. The city lights outside my apartment window, blurred into streaks as tears. I didn't want to admit slid down my face. I wasn't crying for the car anymore. I was crying for everything that came before it. Every quiet moment of being second best. Every time I told myself it didn't matter. But it always did. My hands shook as I reached for the family album again. Its leather spine frayed, the edges worn like old wounds. I turned the pages slowly, each one peeling back another layer of memory I had tried to bury. There was Emily on her 5th birthday. Balloons filling the living room, a mountain of gifts. Mum's handwriting scrawled across the caption. Our princess turns 5. My 5th birthday? 2 candles on a store-bought cake, no caption at all. I flipped further. Emily at 12, front row at a summer camp in the mountains. Braces glinting as she smiled. A whole group of counselors standing proudly behind her. My summer at 12. Babysitting neighbors' kids while mom and dad claimed money was tight. Flip again, Emily's Sweet 16. A night in glittering lights. Friends crammed into a rented limo. Champagne flutes filled with soda. Her laughter radiating across every photo. My Sweet 16? A shift at the bookstore until midnight. Closing out receipts while the clock struck my birthday unnoticed. The more I turned, the heavier the air grew in the room. It wasn't just neglect. It was a choice. Over and over, they chose Emily. My sacrifices were never acknowledged. My achievements always muted. Even in college when I made the dean's list. There was no celebration, no dinner, not even a card. But Emily's dance recital. Dad took off work early. Mum spent weeks sewing her costume by hand. A hollow laugh escaped me. Bitter and sharp. I could see it all now with perfect clarity. The car wasn't about money. It was about history. About a pattern that had been shaping my life since childhood. They didn't see me. They never had. My phone buzzed again. This time with a message from Emily. Just a simple text. We'll fix this, I promise. My fingers hovered over the screen, my chest tightening. How many times had she said that? How many times had she smiled, apologized, and moved on while I was left to clean up the mess? I set the phone face down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My entire life had been a series of quiet betrayals, but this one was different. This time there was proof. Documents, signatures, legal weight. This time, I wasn't a child begging for attention. I was a woman with leverage. And for the first time, they were the ones trapped in the corner. Not me. I closed the album and whispered into the silence. The past may explain what you did, but it won't excuse it. 3 days passed before I went back to my parents' house. The tension in my chest felt like a vice. Every breath heavy. Every step toward Willow Lane heavier still. When I pushed open the front door, the sound of voices hit me immediately. Not just my family's, but someone else's firm. Commanding, unfamiliar yet oddly familiar. In the living room sat a man I hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Uncle Harvey. My father's older brother. The one who vanished after a family dispute no one ever explained to me fully. His hair was grayer now. His suit sharp. His leather briefcase resting by his side. The moment his eyes met mine, I understood why he was here. He was a lawyer. A very good one. He rose slowly, extending a hand that I ignored. My father's face was pale, my mother's lips tight. Emily slouched on the couch, pretending confidence she didn't feel. Harvey didn't waste time. Clara, your parents have asked me to mediate this situation. You're considering pressing charges. I'm here to prevent that. His voice was smooth, practiced, the kind of voice that belonged in courtrooms. I crossed my arms. They forged my signature. They sold my car. That's not a situation. That's a crime. Emily flinched. Mom tried to speak, but Harvey raised a hand. You're right. What happened was unlawful. If you take this to the authorities, your parents could face felony charges. Prison time. But there is another way. He opened the briefcase, pulling out a stack of crisp legal documents. 30 days. Your family has 30 days to repay the full amount, including fees, and the vehicle remains yours. If they fail, you may proceed with legal action. My father finally spoke, his voice cracking. Clara, please, give us this chance. My eyes burned as I stared at him. This was the man who was supposed to protect me. The man who allowed my dreams to be pawned away like cheap jewelry. Why should I? I whispered. Harvey's eyes locked on mine. Because if you don't, your parents will lose more than your trust. They'll lose everything. For a long moment, silence filled the room. The ticking of the old clock on the mantel was the only sound, each second hammering into my chest like a countdown. 30 days. That was all. Emily leaned forward, her voice breaking. Clara, I swear I'll fix this. I'll sell my things. I'll find a way. Just don't destroy us. I wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the papers in half. But instead, I took the pen Harvey slid across the coffee table. My signature, real this time, burned into the page. 30 days, I said. Not 1 day more. The contract snapped shut, Harvey sliding it neatly back into his briefcase. His job was done. Mine had just begun. Before we continue, make sure to like this video. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal and revenge. The contract was signed. The countdown had begun. 30 days. Every tick of the clock felt louder now, echoing through my head like a drumbeat of inevitability. My parents tried to act normal in the days that followed, but normal was gone. The moment I walked into their house, I could see it, the quiet panic, the desperate calculations behind every glance. My father, once a man who came home at 5 sharp every evening, now dragged himself through the front door after midnight. His work uniform stained, his shoulders bent, his eyes red from exhaustion. He had taken on extra shifts at the warehouse, working nights, hauling boxes until his back gave out, chasing money he should never have had to chase if he had made different choices. My mother, usually so proud of her pristine home, now spent hours on the phone with old friends, begging for loans, swallowing her pride one call at a time. And Emily, the golden child, the one who always had everything, handed to her. Transformation was the most shocking of all. The girl who once flaunted designer handbags and glossy heels on social media was now posting carefully cropped photos, hiding the fact that her closet was emptying piece by piece. I saw her listing her luxury items online, her diamond-studded watch, her limited edition purse, even the car she loved more than anything. Each sale chipped away at her vanity. Each transaction a reminder that the empire built on favoritism was crumbling. At first, I thought I would feel satisfaction, that I would revel in watching them struggle, watching them finally taste the bitterness they had fed me for years. But late at night, lying awake in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, I felt something else conflict. Guilt, resentment and pity waging war inside me. Was this redemption? Was this justice? Or was it just another form of cruelty? A cycle repeating itself through me. The days slipped away faster than I expected. 20 days left. Then 15. Then 10. My father grew thinner, my mother quieter, Emily paler. The weight of the debt pressed down on them like a storm. And for once they couldn't shield Emily from the rain. On the 29th day I returned to their house, the air heavy with dread. The papers were waiting on the kitchen table. Uncle Harvey seated once more like a judge about to deliver a verdict. My parents stood beside him, hollow-eyed, while Emily clutched an envelope in trembling hands. Clara, Harvey said evenly, they've gathered the amount. Every cent. Emily stepped forward, pressing the envelope into my hands. Her voice cracked. It's yours. All of it, just end this. I looked at their faces, worn and broken, and for the first time I saw something real: fear, humility, desperation. They had given up their pride, their comfort, their illusions of control. All for me. My throat tightened. This was the moment. The moment I would decide if the story ended in redemption or ruin. I closed my eyes. The weight of the envelope, pressing into my palm like a question I wasn't ready to answer. The envelope was heavy in my hands, heavier than paper had any right to be. My heart pounded against my ribs as I stared at it, as though the weight of decades of betrayal, favoritism, and silence had been sealed inside along with the money. My father's eyes were hollow. My mother's fingers twisted nervously against each other, and Emily's face was streaked with tears she couldn't hide. For the first time in my life, they weren't the untouchable family who always looked down on me. They were broken, fragile, begging. Harvey leaned forward, his gaze sharp. Clara, this is your decision. Once you accept, the matter ends. No court, no police. Just family. His words cut through the thick air, but they didn't soothe me. They only reminded me of the power I held. Power I never asked for but finally had. I opened the envelope slowly, the crisp smell of cash filling the room. The bills stacked neatly, counted with precision. They had done it. Against all odds, they had done it. For a long moment I wanted to hand it back, to say this was enough, to let the story end in forgiveness. But then I remembered the empty garage, the forged signature, the smirk on Emily's face when she told me it was temporary. I remembered birthdays forgotten, graduations ignored, years of sacrifice that meant nothing. My lips curved into a smile that wasn't a smile at all. I set the envelope on the table and pushed it back toward Harvey. File the charges, I said softly. The room froze. My mother gasped. Emily stumbled forward, shaking her head. Clara, please, you can't. I can. I interrupted, my voice steady now, stronger than it had ever been. You thought money could fix this. But money can't buy back respect. It can't erase what you did. Actions have consequences. And this time, you'll face them. My father's knees buckled, his hands gripping the edge of the table for support. My mother collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Emily screamed, her voice raw, her perfect world collapsing at last. Harvey's expression never changed. He simply gathered the envelope, placed the contract beside it, and nodded once. Very well. In that moment, a silence deeper than any I had ever known filled the house. It wasn't victory. Not entirely. It wasn't peace either. It was something darker, heavier, the sound of an empire falling. As I walked out the front door, the cool evening air hit my face, and for the first time I felt free. Free from their approval, free from their shadows, free from the chains of being second best. Behind me, their voices rose in chaos, but I didn't look back. I had given them 30 days, and now their time was up.